Hello YouTube, this is Tyans, and I will be doing a Prot guide for warriors, and let's just get into it. First, I'm going to do the same thing I did in my last video. I'm going to show you my keybinds, and then my keybinds, and if they're macro, I'm going to show you those, and then so on and so on. First, I like to point out that I do have a Razor Naga, so those buttons are right here. And if I need a modifier, what I really don't since this on my warrior, I also have the alt modifier right here, but that's covered up by my damage meter. And I have my Nostromo binds right here. If you don't have a Nostromo, then you could still use these keybinds, but you might have trouble with these two, but it will be okay. First off, for my attacks, you don't have to have them keybind the way I do. I just like to have it this way because it best suits me. But for 1, I have Shield Slam, 2, Devastate, 3, Heroic Strike, 4, Shield Barrier, 5, Revenge, 6, Shield Block, 7, Spell Reflect, 8, Blade Storm, and 9, Mass Spell Reflect. Now, I do have 3 macros in here. It's 4, 6, and 8. And these are the macros. It's pretty simple, but I just decided to include this. For the shield barrier, all it basically does is equips my one-handed shield in case I don't have that equipped, and for shield block, it does the same thing. And for Blade Storm, since Blade Storm does better damage in Prot, I also equip my two-hander, so when I'm done doing my Blade Storm, then I could just click 4 or 6 and it'll just put me back in my one-hander shield. Now what I used to do is I would just have it on 2 separate binds. For when I want to Blade Storm, I would just click the button and then Blade Storm, but this just made it easier. Okay, now for the Nostromo binds. Oh yeah, for the Razor Nostromo, I also have these two. This is a macro, and it is, I personally made this. I feel pretty good about it. It basically charges a target if it's harmful and puts a hamstring, and if you click Alt, then it will reset that. So if you have the double charge, or if you just wait 15 seconds, it'll also recharge. But also, if it's a friendly target, then it'll also intervene them. And I made that personally, so I'm pretty proud of that. And for B4, I just have Piercing Howl. If you don't know where these buttons are, if you have a Razor Nostromo, it's the button right under the scroll wheel. And for wheel up, I have Execute, and for wheel down, I have Demoralizing Shout. I don't have anything right here, but I really don't need any. I really don't need any more skills, like, to bind. And yeah, I'm just gonna go from top to bottom. For Q, I have Victory Rush. For up, I have my Heroic Strike macro, which I'll show you right now. It's very simple. All it does is Heroic Strike, taunt, and then shoot or throw, whichever one. And for E, it's just regular pummel. For R, I have my defense macro. It puts shield wall on, die by the sword. If I'm not in Prot, it will do shield block in case I forget to use that, and it'll equip my one-handed shield, and it'll put me into defensive stance. Most of the time I just use this for the shield wall, but in case I do not have my one-handed shield equipped, then it'll also do that. And for T, which is the wheel up on the Razor Nostromo, is my burst macro. It's pretty much all your offensive cooldowns. I was just putting in your racial first, because most of the time some people forget that they have a good racial, so if you have a good ratio, put that in. If not, then it doesn't really make a difference. Now, I use this for both of my specs, for Prot and for arms, so it has Blade Storm and Dragon's Roar, and it also equips my two-hander for the Blade Storm in case I'm bursting and I want to do all my cooldowns instead of just using 8 and just doing the regular Blade Storm. Okay, and for left is my trinkets. There's no macro for that. For down, I have my heal macro. It's pretty simple. It's Rail and Cry, Healthstone, Last Stand, and Commanding Shout. So if I'm running low on health, I could just pop that, and that will usually get me up some health close enough to where that I would probably survive. Most of the time I do, but sometimes I won't. And right is just Berserker Rage in case my trinket is off cooldown, or I want to get enraged to do some more damage after my burst. And for F, just have a simple disarm. For G, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's macros in the Nostromo, and I set it to where as soon as I click G, which is the mouse click on the Nostromo, it will automatically heroic leap to where my mouse is. So even if I'm holding down like this, like holding down the right button, it will still do the heroic leap, which I find is pretty good. For Z, I have Shattering Throw, which is not a macro. I used to have it as a macro for putting me into battle stance, but it's really not useful. For X, I have Intimidating Shout, and for C, I have Cleave. That is a macro, and it simply does a Deadly Calm and Cleave, and if I'm in arms, it'll also do Sleeping Strikes. And for V, which would be the wheel down on the Nostromo, I don't have anything. It used to be Disarm, but I changed some of my keybinds around. Okay, now what I'm going to do is my talents. Now for Prots, it's really not about doing damage. It's more about surviving, but you can go either way. So these are for what I have. I have double time to get those 2 charges in case I need to generate some rage. Second wind just to keep me up and to give me some rage when I'm getting low. Piercing Howl just to slow them down if they're trying to kite me. Blade Storm for the burst. I used to have Dragon's Roar, but I decided to do the Blade Storm because it does more damage in Prot. Mass Spell Reflect just in case I need another Reflect. And Avatar just for the burst. Now, like I said, you do not have to have these. These are just what I picked. And now we'll go on to the glyphs. You don't have to have these, like I said. I'm not forcing anyone to do this, but I've found these pretty effective, even for new players. I have Glyph of Hold the Line, which improves the damage of your next revenge by 50% following a successful parry. So in Battlegrounds, what you want to do is you want to get a Hunter's Pet, or a Mage's Pet, or a Warlock's Pet to attack you, so whenever you parry them, then your revenge will do 50% more damage. And I have Glyph of Death from Above, which reduces the cooldown of Heroic Leap by 15 seconds and increases its damage by 100%, which is pretty good for getting around and also doing a little bit more damage. And I have Glyph of Ferocious Sundering. What it basically does is just reduces the cost of Sunder Armor. And since I'm Prot, that just calculates into the Devastate. So basically Devastate has no rage cost, which is pretty good. And these are just minor glyphs. When you get angry, then I catch on fire, and also when I use Victory Rush, then I grow slightly larger. I just like that for like if I'm doing really good and I'm like going down, then I could make it to where, well, yeah, I can make it to where I'm growing bigger even when I'm going down. So that just looks cool. You don't have to have those, but I do. Now I'm going to show you a rotation. Now these are what I usually have for Prots and PvP. Obviously you want to start off with a charge or heroic leap, whichever one, but I would suggest doing the charge because the extra rage regeneration. If you don't need the rage regeneration and you have a different rotation, you could get up that rage, then you could just use heroic leap for that extra damage off the start. Okay, so what you want to do is first you want to start off. You want to start off with a Shield Slam, Devastate, Revenge, and then Heroic Strike. It's the same as my arms, but it's in Prots. Now I find out. Now if you have something on cooldown, let's say, see, I just used Shield Slam, and it's not off cooldown there. What you need to do is go to the next one and just keep on going. Now if you start to go down some, then just use shield barrier. If you start to go down a lot, skip the heroic strike and just build up so you can get a shield block. Because if a lot of people are going at you, shield block is better than the shield barrier, but it costs 3 times as much rage, so you do not need to spend that rage on the heroic strike if you want to live. Keep in mind that Revenge and Shield Slam operate more with the defensive stance, so you're Prot anyway, so you should be doing that, so that's really not a problem. And if you're getting a lot of damage taken on you, what I like to do is I use a Blade Storm to get, I use a Heroic Leap to get away with my set bonus, so that speeds me up, and then I use Blade Storm so that they can't root me, so I could just go, I could leap away, do the Blade Storm so they can't snare me, and then I'll place a banner down, and then I'll intervene that, and then that'll usually cover a good distance if I do it right. And if you're going down, what I suggest doing is blowing your offensive cooldowns, well, not offensive, your defensive cooldowns, and then blowing your offensive cooldowns. Now some people wonder why I do that. It's because if you're getting a lot of damage taken on you and then you survive that, what you want to do is kind of send back a rebuttal, so they thought they were going to kill you, but now you try to kill them. So it's kind of like a little intimidating thing, but you don't have to do that. I just like doing that. That's just how I play. And also, if you're just trying to get away from people, what I suggest doing is, like I said, doing the Heroic Leap and Blade Storm. But if those are on cooldown, what I suggest doing is Fear, intervene a banner, and then use Piercing Howl if they start to get closer. Okay, now something else you should notice about Prot is it is not a completely offensive or defensive spec. It is, the way you play it depends on whether you're good at defensive or offensive, but either way, Prot is a good spec all around. It is, I wouldn't suggest that it's better than Arms of Fury, but definitely it is better if you want to just do either offensive or defensive. And also, sometimes if you play right, then you can do either one. Like if you're doing a battleground and your team isn't that good, then you can play defensive. If you're playing a good team, then you can just play offensive. But it just depends on how you play. And yeah. Well, that's the end of my video. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any friends who are having trouble with a warrior, then just post this video to them, or just have them message me, and I will get to that and and help them as much as I can. This is tie-ins, and be sure to check out my other videos, because I do have more videos. I do not just do warriors. I do have a druid and a hunter that I'll start making videos for, so if you have either one of those, then you should check those out too. I'm pretty good at those three, but the other three, and not that good. Well, that's it for the video. Bye.